The pre-tribulation rapture of the church is not a new concept, but was a teaching that came directly from the apostles themselves. The list I'm about to read will begin before 1830 and turn all the way back to the 1st century AD. 1792, Thomas Scott taught that the righteous will be carried to heaven, where they will be secured until the time of judgment is over. In 1763, James McKnight taught that the righteous will be carried to heaven until judgment is over. 1748, John McGill wrote a commentary on the New Testament, teaches of the imminent return of Christ, firstly in rapture, and then he will return again to judge the earth at Armageddon. 1744, Morgan Edwards, founder of the Ivy League school Brown University, wrote of his pre-tribulation rapture beliefs. 1738, Philip Doddridge also wrote a commentary on the New Testament, teaches along the same lines of John Gill about a pre-tribulation rapture perspective. 1687, Peter Giroux wrote Approaching Deliverance of the Church, stated Christ will return during the rapture and take his saints to heaven and later return at the Battle of Armageddon. In 1748, Isaac Watts, known as the father of English hymn, wrote of his pre-tribulation rapture beliefs. 1674, Thomas Collier makes a reference to the pre-tribulation rapture. 1591, Francisco Rivera wrote of his pre-tribulation rapture of the church beliefs. In 431 AD to 1500 AD, any mention of the pre-tribulation rapture church perspectives are outlawed by the Catholic Church, deemed heretical and superstitious, and many are martyred for it. This was also due to the Council of Ephesus in 431 AD. The Catholic Church decreed and condemned pre-tribulation rapture of the church doctrine as heresy, and started in books and such writings are destroyed or altered. The following all wrote of pre-tribulation rapture of the church. These are members of the beginning of the Catholic Church who, even though there's some misteachings were starting at this time, taught about the imminent return of Christ. 430 AD, Augustine, Bishop of North Africa. 373 AD, Ephraim of Nisbis. 304 AD, Victorius, Bishop of Poitou. 250 AD, Cyprian. 236 AD, Hippolytus of Rome. 272 AD, Apocalypse of Elijah, as a writing. 202 AD, Irenaeus wrote a 15-chapter book called Against the Heresies. He was talking about the imminent return of Christ in that, but also against the heretical teachings that's being formed at the time. It's kind of ironic because the Catholic Church talks a lot about Saint Irenaeus and and here he talked against him. And then Saint Ignatius, which in 108 AD, Ignatius of Antioch, the third bishop and patriarch of Antioch, who was a student of John the Apostle himself, wrote letters of extra-biblical works. In other words, these are letters written to these groups, and they all, in these letters, talked about a pre-tribulation rapture doctrine. He wrote a letter to the Ephesians, he wrote a letter to the Magnesians, a letter to the Trallians, a letter to the Romans, to the Philadelphians, to the Smyrnarians, and he also wrote a letter to Polycarp, Bishop of Smyrna, who later, I think around 80 years of age, Polycarp was martyred for his teachings. And lastly, 99 AD, Clement of Rome wrote a letter to the Corinthians known as I Clement. He talked about the imminent return of Christ. Even though the Catholic Church tried to destroy and suppress any writings or teachings on the pre-tribulation rapture of the Church, which is easily dated all the way back to the apostles themselves, they have failed. The pre-tribulation rapture of the Church, which is the oldest of all biblical perspectives, could not be stopped. It originates with the apostles of Jesus Christ during the first century, taught by their students, and continues on to this very day. The mid-tribulation, post-tribulation, pre-rapture teachings, which are false, are the new teachings and not the original teachings of Jesus Christ, nor his chosen apostles for their students. Those are the teachings and creations of man, not of God. So therefore, you choose who you follow. You follow God or you follow man. Many times people come to me and say it's not a salvation issue. Yes, it is. We are living and we are warning people to come to God before it's too late and become a born-again Christian. Because if you're not a born-again Christian and you hear the gospel and you reject it, you're damned. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 10 through 12, God sends strong delusion. They'll be deluded. They won't know the rapture takes place. All these left behind books and movies are fiction. And they mislead so many people. I understand Tim LaHaye, I've seen an interview he had where he wrote those, and with Jenkins, they wrote the stories. They were trying to get people involved with the rapture of the church. and they're trying to get them, looking towards that. But unfortunately, they did a disservice more than anything, because a lot of people think there's a second chance, and there isn't. Yes, Revelation 7, many come. There's a great multitude that comes out of the 7-year tribulation, but those are mainly Jewish people. There's over 12 million Jews on the face of this earth. Only 1/3 of them come to God. It says in Scripture. Well, that's 3 or 4 million. And then you have a few Gentiles who've not heard the gospel before the rapture of the church have an opportunity to come to God. But it will be very few. Most will not. So that's why it's so important. A lot of people all over YouTube are putting out things now. They mean well, and they're like, well, sow a seed and help those left behind. No, you need to get those people saved before they're left behind. Because if they're left behind, they're damned for eternity. God bless.